Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are diving into a radical shift in thinking that didn't just change the world, it absolutely shattered it. We're going to unpack how the rock-solid certainty of the Victorian era just crumbled, leading to a century of incredible progress, but also a profound and pretty dangerous relapse.
You know, this line from George Bernard Shaw, it's not just a clever quote, it's a total gut punch. Imagine the very ground beneath your feet, the bedrock of everything you believe in, suddenly turning to sand. That feeling of vertigo, that shock, that's what it felt like to be alive at the turn of the 20th century.
So, to really get a handle on the earthquake, we first have to understand the mountain it brought down, the incredibly rigid, ordered, and what they thought was an eternal Victorian world.
For the Victorians, their core institutions, I'm talking the home, the empire, the Christian religion, weren't just stable, they were final. They thought they'd reached the end of history. They literally couldn't imagine a world where these pillars might be replaced by something else.
So you put all that together, and what do you get? A mindset that valued stability above everything else. It was all about willingly submitting to authority, a culture of just accepting things as they are, an instinct to agree rather than to question. This wasn't just a preference, it was the very air they breathed.
But that stability? It was a fragile illusion. And a series of intellectual and scientific bombshells were about to blow the whole thing to pieces.
And wow, you can really see the two worlds colliding here. The Victorian values of permanence, authority, acceptance, they were completely flipped on their head. The new century was all about embracing change, celebrating questions, and making a virtue out of revolt. It was a total 180 in the collective mind.
Thinkers like Shaw, they were like an intellectual wrecking crew. They were urging everyone to take a hammer to every single belief and authority figure. And this wasn't just for philosophers in ivory towers. The goal was to create a whole generation of skeptics, of people who constantly asked, but why?
And this new spirit of questioning got thrown into absolute overdrive by the scientific revolution. All of a sudden, the impossible felt possible. The airplane, the motor car, these weren't just new gadgets. They were powerful symbols of a new, unbound future.
But here is the dark twist in the story. The very same engine of progress that gave us wings also gave us new, terrifying ways to kill each other. The same ingenuity that promised to set humanity free also forged the chains of modern warfare, leading to 2 world wars and the constant threat of total annihilation. Progress and regress, tied together at the hip.
And this battle of ideas wasn't just on the battlefield or in the science lab. Oh no, it ripped right through the world of arts and literature, creating a deep and lasting split.
And this analysis points to one single year as the moment the dam finally broke, 1922. This was the year James Joyce's Ulysses and T.S. Eliot's The Wasteland landed like meteors, and literature, as it's described here, retreated into an esoteric fastness. It went into hiding.
So this basically created 2 warring fractions. On one side, you had writers like Shaw and H.G. Wells. They believed in art for life's sake, art that should speak to everybody. But on the other side were the modernists, like Joyce and Eliot. Their motto was art for art's sake, and they were creating these incredibly complex, difficult works for a tiny, intellectual elite. And this wasn't just a matter of taste. It was a fundamental disagreement about what art is even for. This new intellectualism, it was built on a kind of contempt for the average person's intelligence, creating a huge gap between the artist and the public that just hadn't been there before.
The consequences of all these upheavals went way beyond art, though. They fundamentally reshaped the state itself and every individual's place inside it.
Okay, so follow this chain of events, because it's a real head-scratcher. The welfare state is created with the best intentions, right? Provide security, make people happy. But the result wasn't a society of happy, fulfilled individuals. Instead, it led to this mood of sullen discontent, and the individual common man got kind of swallowed up by the anonymous mass man.
At the exact same time, the assembly line comes along and just kills craftsmanship. That pride you take in your work, gone. Replaced by pushing a button all day. And the argument here is that this indifference to quality and form in manufacturing started to bleed into the arts, leading to a kind of anti-art movement.
So the final phase of this whole century of revolt shows up in a cultural phenomenon that I think a lot of us will recognize: the rise of youth culture as this powerful oppositional force.
And who were the poster children for this new rebellion? Yep, the beatniks. Their whole philosophy was pretty simple. Society is totally broken, so we are checking out. They weren't trying to reform it, they were all about abandoning the mainstream and smashing every social taboo they could get their hands on.
And they had a very specific look and lifestyle to prove it. I mean, this wasn't just rebellion. It was rebellion as performance art. Purposeful squalor, shabby clothes, rejecting everything from personal hygiene to organized religion. It was a calculated performance to be the absolute opposite of their parents' generation.
So where does this long, winding road of rebellion finally lead? According to this analysis, it ends right here, in a culture that's obsessed with the personality cult and public exposure. The private virtues of the Victorians, modesty, dignity, restraint, have been swapped out for a relentless drive for public attention.
And that leaves us with a really powerful and frankly unsettling question to think about. In the necessary and often heroic struggle to tear down a rigid and oppressive old world, did we accidentally throw away something precious in the process? It's a question that haunted the 20th century, and it's one we are absolutely still grappling with today.